The Aldrin flyer left the city at 4:17, and by the time it cleared the river bridge and opened onto the long valley corridor, most of the passengers in the forward cars had settled into the particular stillness of a long journey underway. Nora Calloway had the club car vestibule door half open, the warm amber light of the observation lounge spilling through, when she realized Celeste was no longer beside her. She turned. Celeste was still at the threshold, stopped. Annual pass extended toward the steward's hand. Her expression the particular kind of level that Nora had learned 41 years of friendship to read carefully. The steward, young, blonde, his uniform pressed to a crease, held the pass without scanning it. "I'll need some additional verification on this one," he said. Nora looked at her own pass, already scanned and cleared, already back in her coat pocket. She had moved through the same door 30 seconds ago without a second glance. The scanner beeping green before the steward's hand was even fully extended. She thought about that now. Celeste O.C. Pruitt was 67 years old, retired from 14 years on the federal appeals bench, and she had held a lifetime honorary annual pass to the Crestline Continental Club car since the memorial service for her husband 3 years prior, when the rails company's president had pressed it into her hands himself. She was 5'4", immaculate in a gray wool coat, and she had spent her career distinguishing between a legitimate procedural standard and a rule invented on the spot for a specific person. She stood in the vestibule of the Aldrin Flyers observation lounge, and she asked, in a voice that did not rise by a single note, a single question, "Verification standard does this pass require?" The steward, his name tag read Mitchell Vane, looked at the pass. He looked at her. He had a prepared-sounding answer available. Something about system flags and confirmation protocols, but the answer had the particular texture of something assembled on short notice. And Celeste had been listening to testimony under pressure for 14 years. The distinction was audible before he finished the second sentence. "I see," she said when he stopped. "Can you show me where that policy is documented?" Mitchell Vane could not. Nora, by then, had understood what she was looking at. She had taken 3 steps into the observation lounge and registered the delay as mechanical. A scanner. Issue. A loose contact, the kind of small and boring problem that resolves in seconds. Then she had actually looked. She had seen the passes. Hers returned in one smooth motion, unexamined. Celeste in the steward's hand held, while he explained a policy that appeared to have no written source. She walked back to the vestibule. "I'm sorry," she said to Mitchell Vane, keeping her voice easy. "We're traveling together. Is there a problem with the pass?" "Just additional verification," he said. "Standard procedure." "You didn't ask me for additional verification," Nora said. "My pass is the same tier." "Ma'am, I simply need to, Nora." Celeste's hand touched her arm once briefly. "It's all right." She said it in the way that meant, "I have this, and I have had this long before you arrived to help." She reached into her bag, took out her phone, and dialed a number she had used perhaps a dozen times over the years. The direct line to the EA of Crestline Continental's president, Harold Ashby, who had served on the rail board alongside her late husband for 11 of those 14 years, and who had said, at the memorial gathering where he'd handed her the pass, that she was family to the company and always would be. The EA answered on the second ring. Celeste gave her name. She said, with the unhurried precision of someone who spent a career stating facts into records, that she was standing in the vestibule of the club car on the Aldrin flyer, that her annual pass had been withheld without documented cause, while her companion's identical tier pass had been cleared without a check, and that the steward presently holding her pass was unable to identify the verification standard he had cited. She said she would wait. She thanked the EA and ended the call. She put the phone in her bag. She clasped her hands in front of her. She waited. Nora stood beside her. Mitchell Vane stood on the other side of the scanner, with Celeste's pass in his hand, and the particular expression of a person who has begun to understand the size of what he has done. He said nothing. Neither did Celeste. The observation lounge behind him moved on without them. Amber afternoon light through tinted glass, the valley running past outside, a line of cottonwood trees following a creek that disappeared into the middle distance. The other passengers sat with their drinks, and their books, and their quiet conversations. No one had looked up. The world was proceeding at its usual pace. 3 feet from where a retired federal judge stood in a doorway she had every right to walk through. 4 minutes and 22 seconds after the call ended, Mitchell Vane's earpiece sounded. Nora watched his face. Not a collapse, nothing theatrical. A stillness. The particular quality of a person receiving information that reorganizes what they thought they stood, he said. Yes, sir. He said it again. He said, I understand. He handed the pass back to Celeste O.C. Pruitt and stepped to one side. She walked through the door. Nora followed, and for a moment both of them simply stood inside the lounge. The warmth of it, the amber light, the soft sound of the train's motion through the floor, and the passengers, at their tables, went on reading and sipping and looking out at the valley, entirely unaware of what had just taken place 3 feet from where they sat. A man in a window seat glanced up briefly, then back at his book. The world in here had not paused. It never had. Dorothea Marsh, the club car supervisor, silver-haired, 9 years on this route, the kind of composure that comes from having handled more than she had ever been asked to discuss, was at their side within 2 minutes of Mitchell Vane's earpiece call. She asked, in a voice calibrated to reach the two of them and no one else, whether Judge O.C. Pruitt would accept her personal apology on behalf of Crestline Continental. She said that Mitchell Vane would be placed on administrative review effective at the conclusion of this run, pending a formal equity office inquiry. She said that the club car annual pass scanning system would be updated at the next maintenance interval to display the pass tier and holder name on the steward's screen before any secondary action could be initiated. A structural correction, so that what had occurred in this vestibule today would not be procedurally possible in the same way again. Celeste listened to all of it. Then she said she appreciated the actions described, and she hoped the system update would apply to every annual pass in the fleet, not only the honorary tier. Dorothea Marsh said it would. They were shown to the table at the far end of the observation lounge. The best seat on train, the regulars knew, the one with the unbroken westward view, and the way the late light came across the plain in the final hour before sunset. A waiter came. Nora ordered tea. Celeste ordered coffee black and thanked him by name after he told it to them. Outside, the valley gave way to a long escarpment, rust-colored and enormous, and the light was going gold against it. For a while, neither of them spoke. Train moved through the country at speed, steady and certain on its track. A hawk turned in the air above a ridge, very far away. Then Nora set down her cup. I walked through, she said. I know, Celeste said. I didn't see it, not right away. Nora turned the cup in her hands. I saw a pause and I thought, scanner. Something mechanical. I know what you thought. It took me too long to turn around. Celeste looked at her across the table, with an expression that held no judgment in it, and a great deal of something older than judgment. The patience of a person who has spent a lifetime being unseen in rooms she was entitled to enter, and who has also never stopped believing that the people worth keeping were the ones who, once they actually saw it, came back. You came back, she said. 3 steps, Nora said. I was 3 steps in. You turned around on the third one. Nora was quiet for a moment. That's not good enough. No, Celeste agreed. But it's what happened, and then you stood there. Outside, the escarpment broke and the plain opened, wide and bare, and running all the way to the horizon, the sky pale and enormous above it. Nora looked at it and thought about the vestibule and the 2 passes in the scanner that had beeped green for her before the steward's hand was even extended, and she thought about how she had turned that into a mechanical story in the 2 seconds before she had turned around, because mechanical was easier, and familiar was easier, and she had been coming to this club car for 9 years, without once having to think about what it cost to get through the door. She did not say all of that. Some things are better carried than spoken, because the words are less than the weight of the thing, and saying them makes them smaller than they are. The dining car opened. They had their second round, and talked the way they talked, about Celeste's daughter's new position, about the house Nora was selling, about the book they'd both finished, and the one they disagreed about nothing and everything, and the long thread of 41 years running, underneath it all like a creek you don't always see but always know is there. The Aldrin flyer pulled into Harwell Station at 9:42 on time. They stepped onto the platform together into the cool night air, bags in hand. Celeste put her arm through Nora's, the way she had since they were in their 20s, and the city was new to them both. They walked toward the terminal lights without looking back. Behind them, in the long train, the observation lounge sat empty and amber-lit. The best tables still held the rings of their cups. The valley had gone dark outside the glass, and there was nothing to see now but the occasional farmhouse light, very far out, steady against the black. And the train moved on, carrying everything forward the way trains do, without looking back, and without stopping to explain.